Good day, ladies and gentlemen, I am Briareos Kerensky, and this is a story of broken hopes. If you have some experience in the world of video games, you surely have one or more publishers you tend to avoid due to various reasons. For me, Idea Factory and Compile Heart sit tightly in that position, but at times I try out one of their games hoping that lightning struck and they did something good for a change. In Compile Heart's case, I haven't played one of their games since the very first Neptunia on the PS3, but seeing that Genkai Tokki Seven Pirates was developed by Felistella, the group behind Summon Night 5 and Luminous Arc Infinity, and the character design is by Mota, or Motor, the guy behind the original Seven Dragon on the DS, I thought I could give them a chance. And I should have totally picked Black Rose Valkyrie, maybe that would have been at least average. Seven Pirates is the fourth game of the Genkai Tokki series, which comprises Monster Mon Peace, Moe Chronicle and Moe Hero Crystal. The only connections to the rest of the series are one particular mechanic that ties into the combat system and that there are Monster Musumes. Story goes that the human protagonist, Parte, wants to explore the Mons Pica Sea in search for hidden treasures, only that her ship crashes at the very beginning of the game, leaving her stranded on one island. Soon she is joined by Waffle, a kobold girl, Claret, a kraken girl, and Jewel, a slime girl that happens to own a ship. The ship is crewed by Paizoku, tiny creatures that will also be the source of story and side missions to progress through the game. There will be a total of 7 girls in your party, plus others acting as bosses and NPCs. The Mons Pica Sea is home to several islands, but only the biggest ones can be explored. The rest can be inspected hoping to find items or more Paizokus to crew the ship. Paizokus can only be recruited by first completing a side mission, that in turn will give a hint on where one is hiding, and finally you'll have to hunt it down. Story missions will net Parte keys to unlock new portions of the sea to explore, and those linked to a new dungeon are clearly marked on the mission log. No matter the mission type, all ask to either gather enough resources or slay a certain number of monsters. The game is kind enough to detail on which island your objectives are, and missions linked to rare random drops aren't required to progress. Resources gathered can be sold or used to create items or equipment for the party. Paizokus will progressively stock better items for you to buy, and the more Paizokus Parte has on her side, the more special attacks they'll be able to unleash when dungeoneering. Dungeons are a very simple affair, with only one right way to get to the local boss and treasure chests scattered around a few wrong turns. Oton, a pink seal with a bra as an eye patch, soon gains the ability to ferry characters across bodies of water and levitate on walls. The latter use is badly implemented, as there is no hint for walls that can be climbed or crevices from where you can descend, requiring constant use of the map. A minimap on the screen, even with the dungeon's simplistic design, would have greatly helped. Monsters are visible. They can be avoided or taken by surprise if approached from behind. The monster roaming the map represents the main type of the monster during the actual encounter. Monster design is peculiar. Most designs will make you raise an eyebrow or two, though only a couple come out as funny, like the beaver, I think, holding a yes-no pillow, or the UFO composed entirely by boobs. Every dungeon has 3 or 4 enemy types, and starting from the second dungeon, only one new monster type is introduced at each new location, the rest are recolors. With the exception of the 7th dungeon, where every opposition, boss included, are recolors. New enemies won't return until the last portion of the game, and still not everything will be original. Unfortunately, the problem is not just how the monsters look, but also how they work within the game structure. Every character that will land on the battlefield has an elemental affinity, either fire, water or wind, arranged in a rock-paper-scissors triangle. All enemies have one single and group attack, their only difference the elemental source. Some enemies might inflict status changes during their attacks, but everything is healed at the end of the battle. Composing the right party is of the utmost priority. Fighting with the wrong elemental affinities is hard, or downright impossible against bosses. Playable characters do have different special attacks, but they are geared so that there will be always someone able to heal without using items, although items will always be your main source of health and resurrections. Fighting is an incredibly boring affair, where you match elemental strengths and weaknesses, unleashing special attacks as soon as you can, as normal attacks do a reasonable amount of damage. Even special attacks don't do much, with the net result of dragging battles along for way too much time. Low damage output and basic fighting mechanics add up to an almost infuriatingly boring experience, with boss battles further compounded by their incredibly long health bars and that at every turn they have to say something, randomly taken from two possible lines. Boss battles had one rule that they can't be defeated by simply reducing their health to zero. The party has to perform an Oton bomb after that. Oton normally serves as a perverted comic relief during cutscenes and transportation method in dungeons, and his third function is to act as a coup de grace against bosses. The Oton bomb must be charged up by, well, masturbating the console. You vigorously rub up and down on both touchscreens with the Vita in vertical position, or you can hold down L and R and hammer circle. This action also has the benefit of increasing a girl's MP count, and MPs are used for special attacks. As said before, normal attacks do reasonable damage, but against bosses even standard special attacks aren't particularly effective. There are two ways to effectively damage bosses. Inflict poison, each poison tick is as strong as two special attacks from the correct elemental affinity, or build up MPs to have a girl enter ecstasy mode. In ecstasy mode, a girl is impervious to status changes and can unleash a single special attack that will use all MPs. Boss battles are fought with the least amount of characters weak to that element as possible, with one character usually serving potion duty for the rest of the fight, while others frantically rack up MPs to unleash a special attack every 10 or so turns. Also, it's impossible to change your party during a battle, so you are either lucky and get the correct party composition for a boss, or, usually, check out a boss weakness, wait for the game over or reset, load the latest save game, and then defeat the boss. It must also be said that Seven Pirates follows the maddening trend of having the party being able to shrug off any kind of normal enemy, but having the boss always a couple of levels higher than the party after going through a dungeon once, forcing players to grind in the same boring battles over and over. Fighting is not difficult because of pure challenge, but due to the lack of cohesive mechanics and a good balance between health and damage dealt. Bosses will be able to do a high power move every turn, while you have to wait several to pull off one attack, and in the meantime you have to grow through your items trying to keep the party alive. Every single battle in Seven Pirates is something you don't want to do because you know it will be a tedious, overdrawn sequence of matching elements with their opposite. and even more so against bosses. But fights are necessary for bosses, and bosses are necessary to complete the game. But after the third dungeon, you'd start to wish for something more than this. Well, there is more, but honestly, even what should have been the interesting part of the game comes off as a necessary chore. Girls don't level up in a normal way, they gain lotions as experience points increase. Lotions are then used to increase stats by rubbing the girls' breasts and influence their size. You can poke, pinch and fondle, with the motion and direction chosen influencing how breasts will enlarge or decrease in size, a change that will be reflected by the character model, although some changes are downright comical. Why does this feel a chore? Because other than a graphical representation, breast size doesn't influence the game at all. Girls can keep panties and bras, with breast size and features dictating the bras that can be worn. However, bras themselves don't offer an edge in combat terms, and due to the incredible blandness of combat and dungeons, it feels like a chore to get through another chore. Girls can also be used to open eggs that enemies might drop in the same breast minigame. Girls with bigger breasts will have a harder time opening eggs without breaking them, but rewards are comparatively better. This minigame works well on the Vita, where you have enough space and finesse, but it's impossible to pull off on a DS4 touchpad and hard to impose the correct motions to analog sticks. Again, items gained by opening eggs aren't particularly impressive, and I left this portion of the game alone after unlocking it. Seven Pirates is not particularly long. Fortunately, I guess. During the first part of the game, party and crew have to find 7 treasures located in 7 dungeons, and that's over within the first 10 hours of the game. That honestly felt like 20. After that, you're partially left to your own devices to hunt down for the final boss, which is hidden behind a series of boss fights and a tower with 6 identical floors, because the game could have used some more repetition. As said before, there are a lot of recolors among enemies, and the game doesn't shy away from reusing the same bosses, with no variation whatsoever, throughout the game. Enemies and bosses have minimal animations, and a few of them seem not to have one at all and stuck in T-pose. Music is bland and repetitive as you can expect, though the various voice talents fit their characters well. Seven Pirates is one prime example that you need a character behind the design to make them interesting, as every single one of the girls, be them playable or NPCs, never strays from the stereotype that they establish once introduced. It doesn't help that dialogues take 5 minutes to drive home the simplest of points, and after the billionth time you've heard Parte chastising Oton for his perverted behavior within the first 2 hours of the game, you'll want to skip everything. In fact, once all playable characters are introduced, there are no more illustrations up till the end, one feel that could have brought some sunshine over the stormy ocean of blandness. But, to give the game credit, the lip-syncing is one of the best I've seen recently.
それを早く言いなさいよ。あんたが秘宝を守る番人ってわけね。実はそうじゃないかと思ったよ。やっぱ気づいてたんじゃない。なんであなたが逆ギレしてるの？最初から無視しなきゃいいでしょ。
Seven Pirates is well below average, and it will be forgotten the moment you stop playing it. There is nothing worth remembering, even in its badly balanced mechanics. And every second you spend playing it, you wish you'll be doing something else. I can compare Seven Pirates to the first Neptunia and Toki Towa. The basic ideas might be there, but the game is pure repetition and the lack of polish is staggering. To tell the whole truth, I consider Seven Pirates a tad better than those 2 games, but it's still not worth playing.
やるぞ。
Maybe I should have really gone for Black Rose Valkyrie. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this review and you stick around for more. Briareo Skarensky, over and out.
私、気づかないかも。